I was actually had been out that night with a buddy of mine. A couple of guys came up and got me from behind.
A chilling hush fell over the courtroom, thick and heavy, as if the very air held its breath. Richard Rawlings, the loud and proud face of Gas Monkey Garage, stood frozen. In a single, shattering moment, his world crumbled to dust. 15 long years in federal prison. No chance of freedom for a decade. The sentence hit him like a wrecking ball, and the king of cars, one so full of bravado, simply collapsed. This was just the beginning of a nightmare that would shake the car world to its core. For years, Richard Rawlings had seemed unstoppable. He was more than a guy who loved cars. He was a car guy, the loudest voice in the room, the biggest personality on TV. With quick car deals, massive burnout, and million-dollar sales, he made it all look easy, like a game. With his backward cap, rock star attitude, and beer always in hand, he built Gas Monkey Garage from a small Dallas shop into a global brand. His show, Fast and Loud, turned him into a household name. To his fans, he was the real deal, honest, raw, and truly Texan. He claimed to find rare cars no one else could, pulling million-dollar classics from barns and forgotten garages like they had been waiting for him all along. His word became law in the world of car collecting. If Rawlings said a car was rare, it was rare. If he said it was authentic, buyers believed without question. That trust, built through his fame and larger-than-life image, meant people rarely questioned his deals, even when experts began having doubts. His fame wasn't just a byproduct of his business. It became the tool that allowed questionable deals to grow in the shadows. The image he projected was so powerful, it often blinded people to the truth. But over time, some deals seemed too perfect, too consistent. Veteran collectors began to whisper, how could Rawlings find so many one-of-a-kind cars? Why did his vehicles always break sales records? Some thought he simply had the best eye in the business. Others weren't so sure. Quiet rumors started to swirl. Stories of cars that were made to look better than they were, paperwork that didn't quite match. A few buyers even came forward saying they couldn't verify the history of what they bought. But Rawlings had a national TV show, a growing fan base, and endorsement deals pouring in. So those whispers were drowned out by the roar of the Gas Monkey machine. He wasn't just fixing up cars anymore. He was reviving legends and selling that dream better than anyone. But dreams built on shaky ground never last. And in late 2023, that ground cracked wide open beneath him. The downfall didn't begin with flashing lights or dramatic raid. It began quietly, with paperwork. In late 2023, the IRS began what was supposed to be a routine check on Gas Monkey Garage, just looking into a few small inconsistencies in the quarterly reports. It seemed normal, no red flags, no headlines, just an accountant asking questions, expecting to wrap it up in weeks. But those small questions led to massive problems. Auditors found business expenses that didn't line up with the public-facing operations, meals listed as car parts, luxury plane rides disguised as vehicle transports, personal cars logged as inventory that were never sold. Even more alarming were secret overseas money transfers never reported to the government. At first glance, Rawlings's books looked perfect, almost too perfect. But forensic accountants trained to detect fraud began pulling at loose threads. The more they pulled, the clearer it became that this wasn't a case of sloppy bookkeeping. It was a carefully constructed illusion, built to deceive. Then came the smoking gun, a VIN or vehicle identification number, tied to a supposedly rare restored car that had sold for over $400,000. This VIN didn't match any known production batch or manufacturer. It was a ghost number, a known tactic in classic car fraud. Investigators followed the trail of this ghost VIN through a complex maze of fake companies, hidden money transfers, and forged documents. What had started as a minor tax error had now unveiled something far more sinister. It wasn't just financial misstatements. It was clear deception, fraud, and possibly even criminal conspiracy. The IRS quickly escalated the case to the Department of Justice. That single ghost VIN was no accident. It was a door, and when they opened it, investigators uncovered an entire hidden network of lies and illegal activity. When federal agents finally raided Gas Monkey Garage, they didn't just find tools and old muscle cars. They found a system, a well-oiled machine, built to deceive from the inside out. Behind the locked doors wasn't just a car shop, but the heart of a massive fraud operation that had fooled the world for years. Far from the bright cameras and TV production crews was a section of the shop that didn't even appear on any official building plans. This secret room had no signage, no surveillance, and was always kept locked. Former employees called it the cage. Inside, it looked less like a garage and more like a forgery lab. Laser tools, high-end printers, and VIN stamping kits were all in place. According to official government documents, this hidden area was the very heart of Richard Rawlings' illegal operation. One former employee described it bluntly. It looked more like a counterfeiting lab than a car shop. For nearly 8 years, Rawlings and a small, trusted inner circle had used this room to secretly change the identities of dozens of vehicles. Ordinary classic cars were reborn as high-value rarities, complete with forged documents, dealer invoices, build sheets, ownership histories, and vintage receipts, so authentic in appearance that even experienced car collectors couldn't tell they were fake. These newly minted rare vehicles, backed by perfectly fake papers, were then sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, often to international buyers, pushing the crimes into federal jurisdiction. Shockingly, many of these fraudulent vehicles were featured on national television, showcased in episodes of Fast and Loud. During Rawlings' trial, clips from Fast and Loud were played in court as evidence. Government attorneys argued that the show was more than entertainment. It was a strategic tool used to market and launder fake cars. In the footage, Rawlings could be seen hyping up what he called unicorn finds, cars with little no paperwork but jaw-dropping visual appeal. These vehicles, always surfacing at the perfect time and always quickly listed for sale, were often accompanied by impossible backstories, claims that they once belonged to celebrities or had been forgotten in barns for decades. Expert witnesses, including car historians and VIN specialists, testified that these finds were not just rare, they were statistically impossible. With every new testimony, the legend of Richard Rawlings as a brilliant car flipper crumbled. It became clear he hadn't just built a garage, he had built an empire of lies. The final blow came not just from documents or VIN fraud, but from within his own walls. 3 former Gas Monkey Garage employees came forward, each recounting almost identical stories that confirmed what investigators suspected. They described a deeply hidden section of the building, beyond the well-lit filming bays and public workspaces, that didn't exist on any floor plan. Known only as the cage, it had no cameras, no signs, and one key, held only by Rawlings himself. Inside, the real business was conducted, not restoring cars, but reinventing them. There were industrial VIN stamps, precision welding tools, and a dedicated forgery workstation churning out fake documents, ownership records, build sheets, vintage dealer invoices. That could fool even the most experienced collectors. One employee testified that it was 100% a forgery lab, not a car shop. This was not a crime of opportunity. It was a carefully orchestrated scheme that ran for at least 6 years. Internal emails, equipment bills, and even footage from nearby businesses showed parts being snuck in through side doors, completely bypassing the public areas. While Fast and Loud filmed in one half of the garage, a full-scale fraud operation hummed quietly in the other. What shocked investigators was the scale. This wasn't just a few altered VINs. Entire car identities were being fabricated. When one employee expressed concern, Rawlings allegedly replied, "If you can't handle this part of the business, you're in the wrong game." That employee quit, and his story would not be heard until the Department of Justice got involved. His account matched perfectly with the government's growing case. The exclusive access, the specialized tools, the secret room, it all pointed to a long-running and deliberate criminal enterprise buried within the core Gas Monkey Garage. But the final nail in the coffin was a betrayal surrounding one specific sale, the 1967 Shelby GT500. Rawlings had called it his crown jewel, the holy grail of muscle cars. It was sold to a European collector for a staggering $1.2 million and was featured prominently in online promotions, interviews, and Fast and Loud episodes. Rawlings described it as the ultimate find. But there was a huge problem. It wasn't GT500 at all. It wasn't even close. The deception came to light when the European buyer attempted to insure the car. Red flags emerged immediately. The VIN failed authenticity checks, and the build sheet looked suspicious. Experts traced a frame and discovered it was, in fact, A standard 1967 Mustang. Restored, yes, but worth under $200,000, a mere fraction of what was paid. Feeling betrayed and stunned, the buyer began recording video messages. Too ill to travel, his sworn testimony was played in full for the jury. In his recorded message, the European buyer spoke with a mix of heartbreak and disbelief. He shared how much he admired Richard Rawlings, how he followed Gas Monkey Garage for years, and how deeply he trusted a man who had built an empire on passion and grit. Holding up the original purchase agreement, he said, "I believed in Richard. Now I see he was acting the whole time." That emotional testimony struck the jury hard. But the prosecution didn't stop there. They played voicemails left by Rawlings himself, in which he assured the buyer of the car's authenticity, using phrases like 100% verified from my private network, and "I would never stake my name on a fake." But that's exactly what he had done. The sale of the Shelby GT500, a car Rawlings had called the Holy Grail and sold for $1.2 million, crossed international borders, involved falsified documents, and clearly proven intent to defraud, sealing the wire fraud charges. This moment shattered the illusion, not just of court, but for Rawlings's entire global fan base. The betrayal felt deeply personal. This wasn't just fraud. It was exploitation of trust, built over years through Rawlings' celebrity persona. What made the scheme so devastating wasn't only how authentic the fake documents looked or how rare the cars seemed. It was the power of the TV show Fast and Loud. With every car flip, every dramatic find, every dollar earned set to rock music and quick edits, Rawlings didn't just entertain, he sold a fantasy that millions believed. He didn't need to convince buyers one-on-one. He convinced millions all at once. Government lawyers used this brilliantly in court, showing full Fast and Loud clips where Rawlings flaunted supposed miracle finds, rare cars, and paperwork he claimed was absolute proof. In one episode, he held up a build sheet, claiming it came from the car's original owner. That very same document was proven to be a forgery, created using a template found in the hidden backroom printing lab discovered during the raid. The show, once seen as a celebration of car culture, was revealed as a tool of deception. His carefully crafted celebrity wasn't a byproduct of fraud. It was the engine behind it. People trusted him because they saw him on TV, watched the before and after transformations, and believed in his energy, passion, and charm. But what they didn't see were the manipulated backstories, staged discoveries, and scripted drama designed to sell lies. The courtroom came to realize Rawlings didn't just build fake cars. He built a fake reality. And when you control the story, you can sell anything, even a complete fabrication. His fame became the weapon that allowed him to deceive, turning entertainment into evidence of a larger criminal scheme. The moment the guilty verdict was read, shockwaves hit the automotive world. Major auction houses like Barrett-Jackson and Mecum quickly released urgent statements, launching internal investigations into vehicles previously sold through Gas Monkey Garage. Rare treasures, once hailed as crown jewels of elite collections, suddenly became subjects of suspicion. Private collectors who once proudly showcased their Gas Monkey originals now fell silent. Some demanded refunds. Others pulled their vehicles from upcoming auctions to avoid scrutiny. A few even contacted law enforcement, fearing they too had been victims. Insurance companies also reacted swiftly, flagging high-value policyholders, freezing claims, and calling back vehicles for re-authentication. What had once been a dream sold on national television had collapsed into one of the most explosive fraud scandals in car collecting history. One executive at a major insurance company called the scandal the largest classic car authenticity collapse in the last 25 years. This wasn't just about a few fraudulent vehicles. It was a blow to the entire foundation of trust and perceived value in the classic car market. The ripple effect was swift and devastating. Discovery Channel, the network that aired Fast and Loud, was reportedly blindsided by the federal charges. Within just 72 hours of the guilty verdict, they cut all ties with Richard Rawlings. Every episode of Fast and Loud was removed from streaming platforms. Spin-off shows were abruptly canceled, and ongoing contract talks with other Gas Monkey personalities were stopped indefinitely. Rawlings' merchandise line, once a multimillion-dollar business, vanished from store shelves and online marketplaces, which began banning official Gas Monkey items out of fear of legal backlash from misled buyers. Sponsors disappeared. Advertisers pulled out. Former collaborators, who once flaunted their association with Rawlings, scrambled to release cold, pre-written statements claiming ignorance of any illegal activity. In a matter of days, the empire Richard Rawlings spent decades building was reduced to dust. He wasn't just canceled, he was erased. The rapid collapse of his brand proved how tightly celebrity trust and market value are woven together in industries like classic cars. It showed that when a famous person's integrity collapses, everything tied to them can come crashing down too. Fame can build you, but it can also bury you. The trial against Richard Rawlings lasted just 3 weeks, but the evidence was overwhelming. Government lawyers presented a towering wall of proof. Alter Vince, expertly forged documents, damning expert testimonies, and a clear, traceable paper trail that led straight to Rawlings' own signature. The defense tried to frame him as a passionate, over-trusting businessman who got in over his head, but the jury didn't buy it. After only 6 hours of deliberation, they returned a unanimous verdict. Guilty on all 18 counts, including wire fraud, mail fraud, tax evasion, and criminal conspiracy. When the verdict was read aloud, Rawlings didn't react. He sat completely still, frozen like a statue. But when Judge Alanir Simmons pronounced the sentence, 15 years in federal prison with no chance of parole for first 10, everything changed. A deafening silence filled the courtroom. Then Rawlings collapsed, falling face first onto the table. Gasps rang out. His ex-wife screamed. Dennis Collins, visibly shaken, tried to rush to him but was held back by U.S. Marshals. Medics stormed in, placing an oxygen mask on him and checking his vitals. It took 7 agonizing minutes before Rawlings stirred again, pale, soaked in sweat, unable to walk. He was wheeled out of the courtroom, strapped to a stretcher. There was no mugshot, no defiance, no bravado, just a broken man with an oxygen mask on his face, crushed by the weight of his own lies. The same courtroom that once saw him as a rock star now saw him for what he truly was, a fallen giant. Richard Rawlings once lived like a legend. He built cars, flipped classics into gold, and made his name a global brand. He had the fire, the fans, the fame, and for years he believed the persona he created was untouchable. But beneath the beer-chugging bravado, behind the flashy TV edits, was something darker, something colder. He didn't just bend the rules. He rewrote them. He wasn't a rebellious dreamer. He was a manipulator. And in the end, that calculated deception cost him everything.